Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Personnel Administration and Higher Education Committee. It's November 22nd. Moving forward, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes for the prior meeting. Supervisor Dean first. Supervisor Driscoll on the second. Any comments, changes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Privilege of the floor. Seeing none, move over to the Adirondack agenda. I don't see any representative from the college today, so we'll make some time here this morning. Item 3, Criminal Justice and Public Safety Emergency Services Committee, a request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to create a new position of probation officer trainee, grade 6.
Chairman, we go to number 2.
Sorry,
That's all right.
we'll make sure my pen keeps me on track here. Request items to be discussed by the Human Services and the Resources Director. Oops. Jackie, any comments today? No comments? Any questions from the committee?
Okay. So much that. Just
Go ahead.
in passing down the hall, I saw a colorful bulletin board of positions. Is there any reason that sometimes that board is empty and sometimes it's jam-packed full? I'm thinking maybe retirements, coming up in the new year, or
The board with the nice marketing looking pieces are current vacancies.
okay,
And the other board with the full sheets of solid paper are exam announcements.
okay, all right, okay,
So we just have a lot of tests coming up. So we
Okay,
have
good, good.
And it just depends, it's very cyclical with
All
the
right.
state. So January, February, March are big. I think every other weekend we have tests holding.
great,
So
good, thanks.
keep your eye on it. Lots of colors happening.
Jackie, before you get up,
Mhm.
just a quick question. Can you give us a status on the, let's call it the temperature of our teams? How are people doing?
Generally across the whole county? Is that what you're asking
Sure,
for?
of course. I'm not looking for specifics and just to take a temperature every once in a while, how everybody's doing. But is the stress levels up? Are we managing everything we need to manage?
Yes and yes. I would say that stress levels are up, but everything is being managed that needs to be managed. So I don't know a lot in the northern, up at DPW. I'm not sure, John seems to have a comment to make.
Comment? It wasn't on the agenda. I'm sorry, everyone, but I'm
You're on the spot. Way to go, Wild.
We have seen, I don't want to get into too many specifics, but over the past few months, we've seen an increase in employee-related issues. And we think it's, it could have been election-driven. It could be the end of the year. Our employees are under a lot of stress, financially, some with the increases in inflation, increases in cost of goods and services. So it could be a number of factors. Jackie and I've talked about it several times, and to see what we could possibly, and I've talked to the leaders about it as well at the department heads meetings, just to see what we can do to try to tamp down the just the feeling that there's a little bit more stress than there has been in the past. And like I said, I think it's a number of factors. I think it's not unique to Warren County. We've, like Jackie says, we've been taking care of the issues as they come up pretty well. So, thank you.
So is this something that we could keep on a normal agenda to see if we're moving in the right direction? Sure. Ben?
Thank you, Chairman. Do we ever receive, Jackie, any reports from the EAP as far as number of individuals? I'm not looking for names or circumstances, but the number of individuals that have accessed their services for a whole host of needs.
Yep, we do, and it is broken out by the, we don't get information about the specific employees, but it is broken out by like the type of issues that they've
Okay.
identified when they go. So I'm happy to share that with the committee. I can email it, our most recent one when I get back downstairs.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
Thanks, Jackie. While you're here too, also, item 2B. Request to authorize an extension of the contract with Ascentus, formerly Novatime, commencing January 1st, terminating December 31st, 25.
Correct. That just allows us to continue to pay for our monthly service while we are working with the treasurer's department to identify a new solution. Novatime is going away in its current form, so we're gonna have to go through that process, and I think we have our first demo scheduled next week or the week after. So we just need to keep paying the bill until we make the transition. So that's what this request is for.
Need a motion to bring that forward, or John? Have a
No,
comment?
Oh. I'll make a motion.
I need to get a motion. Okay, thank you. Ben and Jean, thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Supervisor Thomas?
What's an average?
I think it's about 2,600 a month. It's $235 per employee that punches in per month. And that hasn't increased over the last several years because they're not, they're changing it. We're just kind of writing it out till the end.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? So I'll call a question on this motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Thank you, Jackie. Moving on to item 3, it's a request to amend the table of organization salary schedule to create a new position of probation officer trainee, grade 16, and unfund but retain the table of organization for the position of probation officer effective December 23rd, 24. Motion to bring this to the floor. Supervisor Driscoll, Supervisor Thompson, second. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Moving on to item 4, item to be discussed by the county attorney. And our county attorney isn't here. Well, at least our primary first county attorney isn't here. But Robert, would you like to go through these?
Sure, I'd love to, thanks. So item A, request to create and formulate the composition responsibilities of the Warren County Risk and Safety Committee on that one. This would be also kind of goes hand in hand with request B, which is rescinding resolution 279 of 2009, which amended some prior resolutions on the previously existing risk management steering committee and the safety committee that existed. And with the new risk and safety committee is kind of expanded on those functions and being a little bit more coordinated. It has some representatives from the unions, which the old committee list didn't have. And it would enable the board also, recommend and make recommendations to the board, try to do things to help minimize risk and the costs that come from the risk and reputational damage that come from those particular litigation matters that would adversely affect the county. And we want any more information on it. Marilyn's been working extensively on it. I got, I want to put her on the spot here, but she would have a lot more information on the functions of this because she's done risk management work for a number of years and is really our expert on it far more than I am. If you would like to hear some more information how this would work, I would suggest that she would be the person that's our expert on it.
Thank you, Robert. Motion to bring both these to the floor. Supervisor Driscoll, second. Supervisor Etu, thank you. Ben, questions?
Thank you. I'm just curious who would, in addition to Marilyn, would be a member of that committee? Would it be a member of the Board of Supervisors or who might be potential members of that committee?
We have a nice list here that.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that.
Together as a proposed resolution on it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
A in your packet.
Okay. All right, okay,
Yeah, it's 15 members on it.
okay, great. Sorry about that. I had seen that, but
It's a little bit different composition than the
Okay.
existing risk and safety committee that we had, the employees.
Any questions? Marilyn, would you like to enlighten us?
I apologize, here.
Fine.
So the proposed Risk and Safety Committee combines two existing committees. What we're trying to do is materially influence a property and casualty program and to create an advisory committee to assist the Board of Supervisors. We're trying to put together, identify risk as it occurs. Throughout governance, you can see the list. It's a large list. I will say to you that it is a broad brush across governance, but it provides an opportunity for everyone on this list to embrace the county's efforts for risk management and then bring it back to their divisions to help all of us work together as a team at the county.
So if I'm not mistaken, when I spoke with Attorney Elman, he did mention that one of the changes was having a representative from unions be
Yes.
a part of this also. Any other questions? And I'll call the question on these two motions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Marilyn, I think you're on the agenda for almost all of these, right? So,
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah, C is a red flags identity theft protection policy on that, which is something we don't actually have in place now, and big influence on this is the Federal Trade Commission has a red flag policy for businesses and other entities, and it's something that would help the county because identity theft is not going to be going away. If anything, it's going to become more prevalent. And that whole stealing of data electronically and using information and taking information, this would help protect that and try to help prevent that from happening with the county so that we don't have people stealing information and using it against the county or using it against county employees. Things like we think of things like ransomware attacks and that kind of stuff. And so this policy is a more comprehensive one. It kind of works hand in hand in a sense with our computer policy that we have a computer use policy. Might see a little bit of overlap with that, but that's really strictly for employees. This one, using computers, this is for all of our data, whether it's electronic or in print form still, or anything like that. The policy has a set of procedures, both for handling hard copy information and data and for electronic data. Also has some policy procedures in there, what to do to try to prevent lapses, what to do if there is a breach of the data. Also things to look out for that might be indications of possible suspicious behavior, whether it's by an employee or some outside entity trying to take and extract information from the county. That's our red flag policy that in terms of
motion to bring this to the floor. Supervisor Etu, Supervisor Dean in a second. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question for this motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item D.
Item G is to approve the Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan. This is one that was back a few years ago. The county had to do this as a way to get, well, State Department of Transportation and federal government as well, requiring if you want to keep getting money, you're going to have a plan to show that you have some ADA compliance with things, and we want to get this finished. The county did get an extension to be able to get it done, and we're kind of pushing up against the end of that extension now. The county attorney has completed the transition plan that he also has attached and included here in the agenda for this meeting, that he's recommending that we approve this plan. And this does also go kind of hand in hand with request E, which is to change the authorization from the county planner to the county attorney. The county planner was originally working on this and charged with doing that back a few years ago. But again, with the extension and we're pushing up against the deadline on it, the county attorney completed the plan. And so we just want to have the resolution to essentially memorialize that the county attorney was the one doing this transition plan and completing it, even though the initial authorization was for the planner. It's just to confirm and the board to endorse that authorization that it's coming from the county attorney instead of the county planner.
So motion to bring both?
Yeah.
Supervisor Bean, thank you. And second by Supervisor Merlino. Thank you, gentlemen. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question for items D and E combined. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Robert, number F, or letter F.
Item F is a request to transfer funds in the amount $35.38. That's a time budgetary issue question which somewhat relates to The matters that Supervisor Gerasi relates in a previous committee meeting, but it is a small amount of money, but does technically need to be transferred from one account to the other.
I'm sorry, but I missed, excuse me for a second, John's comment when Carrie was speaking at the last can we change this to something that makes sense? Because $35 and $20 seems a bit ridiculous. Excuse me, but that's what it
What
seems.
committee would that go through? That legislative and rules? Or- Okay,
There is a current resolution in place that requires any transfers that include salary code come and are approved by the Board of Supervisors. That doesn't mean that it can't be readdressed, so we make sure we hit every resolution that may reference that, if that is the will of the board. But we do
I think
and have
next
had that
year,
in
we're
place
gonna,
for many years.
yeah.
So again, I just ended.
so we need a motion to bring this to the floor?
No, I think this would be an action for finance committee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe.
I would think so because it's moving and transferring.
This transfer is gonna go to finance, but the rule of whether we're allowed to do it or not, will be the legislature. And probably will hit finance.
So we have an action to go back to the legislative rules committee with a recommendation. If we'd like to do that, but we need to do a little bit more research first.
So again, we have a motion to approve a budget transfer of $35.38. I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We didn't do the motion
I
yet.
never
Have a
got the
motion?
Oh.
All right, sorry. Supervisor Etu on the first, Supervisor Bean on the second. We'll try again. And I apologize for my confusion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item G.
G is our amending the workplace violence prevention program. There was one put in place back a few years ago. The new proposed revised program for it, you'll notice if you look through it, it's a little bit shorter than the other one. This one is, the new one is conforming more to what the statute requires, so Labor Law 27B, and dealing with workplace assaults and homicides. This fits in more appropriately with what the Department of Labor requires that public entities do for a workplace violence prevention program. Also has a clear set in here, unlike the old plan, it has a clear set of instructions for who actually investigates workplace violence incidents and the chain of custody of a complaint when it comes in and where it goes, who does the investigation, and the procedures involved in keeping track of all that.
Motion to bring this to the floor. Supervisor Bean, and Supervisor Molina on the second. Any questions and comments? Call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries also. Robert, thank you. Moving on to item 5. Items to be discussed by the county administrator. Ken?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a discussion lately and we rescinded the resolution that required performance appraisals on about 21 of our department heads. And it specified the form that was used. And I appreciate all the work that went into creating that. Trying a different approach, the question became, how do we know what their goals are and how do we know if they're accomplishing their goals? And you do know that because they brief that every year in their budget. When the department heads come in and brief their budget request, they present what they've accomplished the previous year and their goals for the upcoming year. They're not all doing that effectively, and we'll make that change going into next year. But that's really when I'd like to have their goal setting sessions done with the budget officer, the chairman, county administrator in the first budget meeting, and then the budget briefing that goes to the committee. I do quarterly check-ins with the department heads, and that's really focused on how can I help them better do their jobs? You know, what's going well, what's not going well, how can we help? I think from my perspective, I don't believe you should have serious concerns about any of our department heads. They are doing great work. They understand their jobs, they understand their roles, and they're all working on developing people to take their place when they plan to retire. So I think that's been pretty effective, and I'd like to continue to do that. We have peak performance training that will start in January, run by Catamount Consulting. It's going to be for department heads and also next level supervisors to help develop leadership and peak performance skills, and to help them. They'll do a self-evaluation, how they're doing as leaders. It'll help with succession planning and all those types of things that we need. I have individual coaching. I have an excellent executive coach who can help department heads, probably one of the best I've ever seen. Me. But
So it
help
won't cost
department
us
heads who need a little bit of assistance. I've done that for several, and it seems to be working, and that's free. And then going back to what we were talking about later, last part, we were talking earlier, I mean, employee well-being is a big component. And it has to be. When I read those lists of people and how many years they have every month, anniversary dates, we have a large number of people in this county workforce who've only been here 1 to 5 years. They're junior people. They're from generations Z and Alpha and even some millennials, but they work a little bit differently, and they don't respond the same to some of the things that we have seen across our careers and in our lives. And we have to be sensitive to that, because we can't pay them what they feel they should be paid. We probably never will. We can't give our benefits are moderate compared to, they used to be really good, but now compared to some of the other corporations, we're not as good in government as we used to be. So we have to focus on things that these employees, that makes them tick a little bit, and we're going to help develop our leaders for that. So I think it's a pretty good system, and I think that you'll see success in the long run. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, John. Any other questions? Now, we are 30 minutes ahead of schedule. So it gives us an opportunity to bring up whatever we like to discuss related to personnel, higher education, administration. Does anyone have anything that we should be discussing that hasn't been on the agenda for some time? Ben?
Thank you, Chairman. I just like to follow up on Mr. Taflin's comments about, I mean, certainly we hear at the budget time, what's going on, but we really, I think, in my opinion, we hear on a monthly basis at committee meetings. They can boast and brag about successes, but also share challenges that they're experiencing, and how they're strategizing to identify, those issues. So I think that all of the departments that I interact with, seem to understand that, and I think they also understand the dynamics of different generations and how they respond to basically the workplace, whether it's an industrial business or government or a small not-for-profit. I think that it's a challenge that all of us face, and I think that we're really doing well here in the county.
Any other comments? Moving on to the agenda, privilege of the floor. Anyone else have any comments? Seeing none, no other discussions. The question is, do we have a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Bean, Supervisor Newton. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.